Days away from this year's budget, and it's an important speech. And investment bank and financial services company Citi Research head and chief economist Gina Schoeman says it needs to showcase the country's fiscal credibility. This, she says, depends on maintaining the same fiscal strategy or plan as before. What does that mean? Well, it entails holding the line on wage bill reductions and also maintaining or even improving on debt stabilization, the plan for 2023. Gina Schoeman is with me now on Thursday lunchtime. Gina, good afternoon to you. First of all, what do you mean by fiscal credibility?
Well, it's not asking for a lot, really, Jeremy. It's asking at this point for two budgets to consecutively have the same fiscal plan. The problem we've had in South Africa is that our fiscal plan, our fiscal strategy has seemed to change with every single budget for quite some time. And that, of course, sends the wrong signal, right? Your plan at the moment says, you must trust us, that we are going to do it this way. And of course, that's what the bond market thinks. And then, of course, you get to the next budget and suddenly the plan has changed again. It's a bit like Peter Who Cried Wolf, that children's story. And where we're very concerned about this is that if you look at the Moody's most recent sovereign ratings report on South Africa, South Africa's institutional strength has actually eroded further. And a lot of this has got to do with fiscal credibility. So stick to the plan and you can at least hold on to some of the credibility.
It's become very difficult to stick to the plan, though, Gina. You'll concede, given the pandemic. You also raised the issue of holding the line on wage bill reductions. Given the difficulties that South Africans are facing, the increasing pressure on government, that is a particularly tough one for government to deal with.
It is, but there is a degree of tolerance here. Budgets typically across different countries can be adjusted within a degree of, I guess, tolerance given what changes. You might have to adjust your GDP assumption given that we are coming out of this pandemic and, things are very uncertain in that regard, but that's fine. You might also very well need to do temporary expenditure that you didn't foresee originally, such as spending on the vaccine, such as topping up social grants. But that type of expenditure is also tolerated simply because it has such a powerful fiscal multiplier in the economy. And what I mean by that is that for every rand you spend on those things, you definitely get a benefit back. And the benefit is obviously sometimes directly through GDP, but sometimes also just through the social well-being of the country. Both of those expenditures are also somewhat temporary in nature, given that they're top-ups and vaccines. So, things like that are within the realm of tolerance when it comes to budgets changing. But what I mean by fiscal credibility and sticking to the plan is that the public sector wage bill in South Africa has been crowding out other types of useful expenditure for a very long time. And public sector workers have been receiving in excess of inflation-linked wage increases, whereas private sector workers have pretty much been in line with inflation all along. Treasury is not saying that public sector workers should be getting below below what they've experienced over the last decade in terms of inflation, and they're not saying they must cut jobs. And that's quite a powerful job security element of all of this. But sticking to the plan, of course, in terms of your overall fiscal framework, spending on sensible things that help the economy, those are the type of things that you have to adhere to.
Gina Schoeman, I'll need a quick answer to this one, but am I correct in saying that there's a little bit more money swilling about here? Revenue collection is contracted, but less than what the National Treasury had expected. What is that number, and then how should that be prioritised?
So essentially, last year, October, at the MCBPS, Treasury took a bearish view on the economic recovery and has actually surprised to the upside. So tax collection has been better. And versus what they expected to be a tax shortfall last year, they're now finding that they're 100 billion ahead of that. Now, that doesn't mean you've got 100 billion just lying around that you can spend, but you've borrowed that additional 100 billion. And so you have an opportunity here to use some of it for spending on things such as vaccines and grant top-ups. And you can use some of it to actually reduce your borrowing requirement, which is very powerful right now because it reduces your risk premium on the economy.
Gina Schoeman, thank you very much indeed. Head Chief Economist at Citi Research. This is Thursday lunch.